All right, so Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, 1977 to 2024. So I start with a postcard, of course. This one was designed by Ed Christian in Chile, and it has a bridge in a very nice round and expression, and it says everything it has to say there, Francis Scott Key in Baltimore. So before we go to more postcard about the bridge, I want to show everybody, because some of you are not from this area, where are we? And by the way, anything that is framed or in red, it means it's taken from the web and it's not a postcard. So this is a map of Maryland. This is Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and then this area is where the bridge was. So close up, this is a harbor of the Port of Baltimore. Anything that is purple here was all kind of facility or places or docking places or storage of the Port of Baltimore. Port of Baltimore is a very important port, and it has been forever. It is ranked the 23rd in USA by cargo volume, and is a number 8 on the East Coast. A little known fact is that it's the most west port on the East Coast. So there is less land to cross if you want to go west. So in the 1970s, so today we have 2 tunnels. But in the 1970s, the tunnel under Fort McHenry Tunnel was not built, because it was built in 1985. And so the only tunnel that was crossing the Patapsco River was 1957, was the Harbor Tunnel, which is here. It was decided, Speaker of the House, Marley Mandel, he wanted to build another tunnel over here on this area here. And the governor, Spiro Agnew, wanted to build a bridge because it was less expensive. And the decision ended up for a bridge. Just for your information, the national anthem of our country was composed by Francis Scott Key while he was on a British ship about in this area, watching Fort McHenry be bombed by the British. And the fort did not collapse under the British at that point. So the firm, Grainer Engineering, was a politically connected firm, was selected for being the primary consultant for designing the bridge. And apparently it became part of a kickback scandal that ended Agnew's vice presidency in 1973. So everything is kind of connected. So what is the construction of this bridge? It opened for traffic on March 23rd, 1977. It was, as I said, approved in 1971. The construction started year afterwards. And then, as I said, the construction was by performed by John Beasley Construction Company, with material fabricated in Pittsburgh Des Moines steel. It was at the time of the beginning of the construction, it was called the Outer Harbor Bridge. And in 76, while it was still being built, it was renamed Francis Scott Key, because it was very close to where Francis Scott was on a British ship on the harbor, composing in the national anthem. It's a 1.6 mile long, or it was a 1.6 mile long bridge. It's a steel truss bridge, and it was the second longest in USA of those type. The pier, here you can see a picture of the bridge, is in a postcard. The piers that support the bridge were out of concrete. This bridge in 78 won the Award of Merit for the American Institute of Steel Construction in the long span category. And for those who didn't know, and I didn't know either, in 1980, a cargo ship collided with the Key Bridge. but the key bridge wasn't damaged, so it resisted. So it was not the first time a ship collided with a bridge. This is a postcard again from the bridge, and it gives basically the information I just gave you is the frame in yellow because this is the caption that is on the back of the postcard. So it's an extraction of it. So it was a harbor. The harbor is the Port of Baltimore is in this area, and then you see the bridge. And this is a more recent postcard designed by Bruce Emmerling, and you can show the bridge in a very kind of artistic way. Of course, the bridge, the boats had to pass underneath. So this is a picture by GWH Images in Maryland, and you can see the USNS Comfort going through the bridge on the channel, which is in the middle between this pier and this pier. That's where the channel, the big boats were going. This one is a design by Derek by Moon, and I like it because it's kind of an artistic way to depict Maryland and the bridge with the boats going through and then Aaron on the first grounds. This postcard is actually a reproduction of an old picture of 1977, and it was the approach to the Key Bridge by car. As you can see from the car, it's not a recent postcard, but it was produced in 2024 as a postcard. Key Bridge has all kind of things. The Key Bridge monsters. So this one, you can see the monster here. And it is a legend since about the 1936 that the Patapsco River and the Chesapeake Bay have a monster, a little bit like the Nessie on the Loch Ness, and it's called Chessie. Not very magenta from Chesapeake and the Chesapeake Bay and Nessie combined. And this guy designed a postcard making, this is how it's very often depicted. So what happened on March 26, 2024 at 1:29 a.m.? So first thing, the Dali cargo ship left the harbor of Baltimore here, and it was escorted by tugboats all the way until it was basically on a straight line to go under the bridge, and the tugboat left. And the Dali was supposed to have been able to power itself through the bridge between the two pillars. Well, it didn't go as planned, and the Dali hit this pier, this concrete pier. So this is what the bridge was before, and this is after the collapse. This is a postcard that Iris, one of our members in Capitol Beltway Postcard Club, has designed on April 24, so shortly after the bridge collapse. And she took herself the pictures. So what happened? Basically, the Dali hit this pier, and because the truss bridge is all pieces of metal, all connected to each other, so when the support failed on one point here, well, the whole thing collapsed at this point, and then these two parts collapsed, and then this part was severed here, and it's seesawed on the other direction and collapsed into the river. So it was not, so the part of the bridge that collapsed was pretty extensive. All the truss collapsed, but also part of the rest of the access roads. This is the bridge. So why the bridge was not protected? Well, the bridge was protected, but not enough. So the bridge had what they call here dolphins. So there are concrete piers or concrete columns that go all the way to the bed of the river. that was supposed to hit where the boat should be hitting this and not the supports. Unfortunately, as you can see on this picture, the dolly went just in between the dolphins that were available and hit the pier. So this is another postcard that showed the bridge. It was sponsored by the Lean Stamps for the Ballpark Stamp Show Post Crossing that was held in September of last year in Baltimore. So this is how the bridge looked from the harbor of Baltimore. Domino Sugar is a trademark of Baltimore. And this is how it looked for my picture on the internet after the disaster. So what happened on the bridge? Unfortunately, 6 died and 1 survived. The police was able to stop in within minutes that they saw that the dolly was in trouble, and immediately they stopped the traffic going through the bridge. Therefore, there were no cars that were driving through the bridge that collapsed into the river with the bridge. But there was a crew of 7 people filling pothole on the bridge, and the police was not able to reach them on time for telling them to leave the area. So 6 went down with the bridge, and 1 worker was in his pickup truck, but he was able to roll down the window that had the hands rolled down and escaped from the window and was saved. There was also another 8th man on the bridge that was walking the whole bridge because he was an inspector and checking for pothole. And he just by chance was on the safe part of the bridge just on time. So these 2 postcards, I like them because they basically saw the soul of the workers, or you can imagine the soul of the workers that are living on the bridge. And this one is a sort of a makeup postcard because you buy the design and then you can make a postcard out of it. And so you download the design, and I can see it went to the post office and it was designed. Notice that the bridge is a wrong bridge. It's not the correct bridge. There's another one, Candlelight Vigil for the Baltimore Bridge victims. This one was by Style Strand in Massachusetts. And again, you see that the bridge is not the correct shape. But I like the design anyway. So because Scott Key is the name of the bridge, and he was on a English ship about that place, there are at least 2 postcards that I know that use the national anthem to say, oh, can you see where my bridge used to be? And this one, they just it was before the collapse of the bridge, but it was the full words of the national anthem to start. Now, this one is, I think, the most interesting postcard of the whole lot. So you have to look at this postcard very closely, which I did because it was very intriguing. So you can see here the Key Bridge that you now recognize the shape and the ship, the cargo ship that was here. But if you look closely, there is another bridge on this postcard. And here it is. There's another bridge on the same postcard. So, and I can enlarge it so that you can see it. So there is this bridge, and then there's a Key Bridge. That was very bizarre. Why there is this other bridge? Well, I made some research on the Mothman, and the Mothman was a West Virginia folklore, a humanoid creature that apparently haunted some Mount Pleasant area for a whole year, from November 66 to November 67. And it was popularized by John Keel in a 1975 book that I just bought, so I will read it. and it claimed that Paranormal Events was a collection of the Silver Bridge. And there is now an annual festival on Point Pleasant about the Mothman legends. And there is a film that was done about the Mothman legend in 2002. So what is this Silver Bridge? This is a Silver Bridge. So I found a postcard of the Silver Bridge, and on the back it clearly says that it collapsed and where 46 people died and 2 bodies were never found still today, occurring December 1967. So you will say, what bridge collapsed? Well, the bridge that you see here is a railroad bridge, is not the bridge that collapsed. So if you look more closely, these are the pillars that were keeping the other bridge, and that's the one that collapsed. So here you can see this picture that I showed you before, and this is the postcard of the bridge before the collapse. Or this other postcard from the other end, you can see the railroad bridge. So what happened to this bridge? Why did it collapse suddenly? Well, apparently there were just rivets because it was suspension chain bridge, and it has one rivet, only one, that corroded enough that it could not hold anything that it was supposed to hold, and the whole thing came down. Again, it's one, like the Key Bridge, it was one of those bridges that did not have redundancy. One failure in one spot will make a disaster for the whole bridge. Well, let's get back. So that was an interesting detour on the Silver Bridge that I was able to find postcard about it, which was actually also interesting. So going back to our bridge. So these are Baltimore Bridge is two depiction of the cargo Dali. One kind of these say silver stage, kind of artistic rendition of it, and this is a picture. Half of the part of the bridge was on the ship, and miraculously nobody was hurt. Of the crew was hurt on the ship. Carter that are cartoonists were even. This is from the Philippines. Davo del Sur created this, and dude, Benson is going to fire us. There is a comma missing after dude. And I don't know if you know these two people, these two cartoons. One is a blue jay and the other one is a raccoon. And it's from a series, a cartoon series. They are called Mordecai and Rigby, and they are two main characters that are groundskeeper in a park, and they are all getting to adventure and trouble. Benson is their boss. On March 27, so a few days after the collapse, the Maryland Governor Wes Moore said in a conference, "We are Maryland tough and Maryland strong." And that saying was taken over not only by President Biden the following day, but also made it become a rallying cry for the region. And the Alliance were raising money for the businesses that were impacted by the collapse, as well as first responder, small business, and the family. Unfortunately, apparently, I just learned today, the family did not get any of the money collected, but the state of Maryland gave them money, so they are hopefully recovering. And this is a postcard, Maryland Tough and Baltimore Strong, that was designed by a Romania designer, and the bridge is not the correct one. Again, the same logo. Here is roughly where it's supposed to be a little bit higher, but where the bridge was. And this one, again, the bridge is wrong, but I like the postcard. These two, one is from Mali, They have the bridge didn't collapse in this direction, but oh well, is artistic liberty. These two again, Baltimore Strong with the date of the collapse. So now what's wrong with this picture? I know you cannot answer me because you're all muted, but nevertheless, in your mind, can you see what's wrong? They are not the right bridge. So this guy, Kane LM for Pennsylvania, did some postcard with the correct bridge, but did quite a few postcard with the wrong bridge. So clearly he was planning to see for Baltimore and the bridge that collapsed, but this is not the shape of the Baltimore bridge. And he knew what the Baltimore bridge is because this is another postcard by him that I showed earlier that has the correct design of the bridge. So he knew exactly how the bridge looked like. Plus, not that difficult to find the shape on the internet. So I'm not sure why he decided. I contact some of the artists to say, you have the wrong bridge. And they say, oh, well, this is the way it goes. Again, the wrong bridge. I'll be back. And this guy from Poland has the wrong ship. The Dali didn't look anywhere close to this one. It's a very nice postcard and very nice design, but why they didn't use the right design for the ship? This one, wrong bridge again, but it has an interesting other twist. There is a black swan, and the black swan theory was that it was for describing an event that comes as a surprise, has a major effect, and after the fact, with the benefit of hindsight, they can be rationalized what happened. The term was based on a Latin expression, presumed that black swan did not exist. Well, in 1697, the Dutch mariners saw black swan in Australia. After this, the term was reinterpreted to mean an unforeseen and consequential event, which is exactly what happened to the Baltimore Bridge. But this postcard not only has the wrong bridge, it has the wrong date on when they opened the bridge. It's not 1972, it's 1977, as I told you earlier. Wrong bridge from elsewhere, from Poland. That's a bridge over storming water, which was not quite the case. And then from United Kingdom, and an enlarged center bridge, and is obviously not the shape of the Baltimore Bridge. So after the collapse of the bridge, they had to clean up, where more than 50 federal, state, and local agencies worked together to remove 50,000 tons of steel, concrete, and asphalt from the channel. And the cleanup was completed by June 10, 2024, meaning 76 days. It was amazing. And if you want to see more, there are movies on how they did it. It was amazing. So the Port of Baltimore was able to reopen and be able to reuse, and they didn't lose that many days. Otherwise, it would have been an economical catastrophe for Baltimore. Well, now we have to rebuild the bridge. So the new bridge ward was designed by Kiewit, is a Omaha, Nebraska company founded in 1884. It's privately held. And on August 29, 2024, the Maryland Transportation Authority approved 73 million contract for phase one, which is basically designing the bridge. And then phase two will be engineering and construction of the bridge. We expect to open the fall of 2028. So, are you ready to see how the new bridge will look like? This is what was unveiled on February 4, 2025. It will be a cable stay bridge, which will be the first cable stay bridge in Maryland. Is as quite a few feature that may render it more stable. it will be first as the span, mean the distance between the two main pillar, the channel being here, it will be 1,600 feet, as opposing 1,200 for the key bridge. So the channel is only 800 feet wide, so it will be more than double, and the ship should stay on the channel in the middle and not hit the piers. And also is a lot higher, so ships that are taller can pass through, and so hopefully they will put enough dolphin and security around the piers so that they will not have a second mishap like the first one. Baltimore Museum of Industry is also trying to collect paraphernalia and ephemera from the bridge collapse. They receive an award by the Baltimore Community Foundation, and they are collecting, potentially they will get a piece of the bridge, collecting art, oral history, film documentary, and potentially postcard. Maybe that would be a good place for me to donate my postcards. This artist is a longshoreman and Wendell Supreme Shannon, and he did a fundraiser by his art related to the bridge, and he donated this picture to the Baltimore Museum of Industry that showed the Dali cargoes and the bridge on top. I discovered very recently, therefore I was not able to get there yet, that the muralist Roberto Marquez from Dallas drove all the way from Dallas to Baltimore soon after the collapse to do a mural near Armchair, which is basically the south side of the bridge. There is a fort and a park, and he was able to get a wall and did mural. And here you can see kind of recognition for the 6 workers that died on the collapse. And this is what the mural was look like. I've been told, unfortunately, partially was already destroyed. So I'm not sure what I will go see, but one of these days I'll go check it out. So to learn more, there is a couple of things. Nova on PBS, it premiered on February 25, show how it collapsed, but also a lot of how it was cleaned up. There's an article on the Baltimore magazine, the issue on March 25, and here is more personal story of worker and rescues, not too much about the structure of the bridge. And then the Key Bridge disaster on a local channel, and it has a video that you can watch. It was on March 19, 2025. Those are the one I found. There may be others. So I want to conclude with another postcard of Christian. I started with his other postcard on the beginning from Chile, and he has a correct bridge and kind of, I don't know, inspired by Impressionist postcard design. So thank you, and I will be more than glad to entertain any question you may have.
Thank you very much,
sharing.
Clarissa. Thank you, Clarissa. That was great. That was great. Learned a lot about it. And I had one question about the new bridge that they're building. It looked like there were a couple of I forget what the term was that you used. The
It's called dolphin. I'm not a bridge structure, but I was very surprised. It's called dolphins.
Okay.
I don't know what they have to do with the dolphin that we know, but
it's interesting. But I noticed on the new bridge, at least from the perspective that I was looking at, it looked like they were blocking the side channels more than the main channel. Do you know anything about that?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Plus, that one was a kind of design. Is not probably the engineering drawings. It's just to show how it looked like.
Yeah, no, I was just curious.
Yeah, so probably we'll have to see. Yes, Patrick?
So it's very interesting, your presentation, and there's so many parallels. You know, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'll give it to Shav, even though he's from the South Bay, and Joe is, and I think a few others of us are. But I used to have a sailboat, and I used to sail the boat out from a place called Alameda, and it would go through Oakland and would go under what's called the Oakland Bay Bridge. And we had those structures to watch out for and so forth. And we actually have had, a few years ago, we had, I can't remember the name of the ship, a ship run into one of the pilings. And they have rules in the bay where you must have a pilot from the bay area, that their whole job is they get onto your big ship with tugboats and they pilot you out of the bay.
Yeah, they did
And
not have that in Baltimore. You didn't have
yeah,
tugboats all the way under the bridge.
right.
And apparently they did an inquiry, and a lot of American bridge do not have enough protection to avoid that disaster, including the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which is the other bridge that the boats have to go through after they pass Baltimore, the Key Bridge.
And there's a natural thing that when you're sailing, if you're going towards a large object, your vessel will tend to be attracted to that large vessel. So you always need to steer. And it's not I mean, you laugh and it sounds funny, but it's a real serious thing, especially at the bridge areas, like on the Bay Bridge is especially known, that all of us who sail through there know to steer clear of that of this particular area. And so it was very interesting to see what happened with that ship. Now that ship is so big, they don't, once they're on a course, they can't really turn, but you'd think they would have known way back.
Well, no, the problem of that ship, or Cargo Dally, is that he lost power. Once they lost power, they have nothing to do.
Yeah, you
And
can't
it was
control it.
and if I want, I can show you a graph that I found from the
But even if he had some forward progress, he could still, go forward. Anyway, I've never done a big ship like that. I've only done sailboats.
So
But
this is a graph that I found. So this is a circuit for getting the fuel and water and fuel to the steering if needed. This cable here was loose. So when this was loose, eventually became loose, so it interrupted the circuits. So it was supposed to go automatically go to the next level or to the next generator, but they had switched it to a manual, so it did not automatically go. So it lost power. Then they finally switched to the other, but by that time, there was no more fuel going to the water, and so this stopped because it had been interrupted enough, and you had to restart completely. And so that was the whole issue. It lost power twice. So they couldn't even steer the ship at all because there was no power on the ship.
wow. Well, anyway, thank you for that explanation too. Yeah.
What I found interesting also is I didn't mention at the beginning is that I was able within months of the disaster to find almost 50 postcards designed by artists, and I show you some of them, not all of them, of course, otherwise you'll be bored. That artists from everywhere in the world, basically from Mali, and they were putting design on the this Zazzle or Redbubble sites for sale. So artists took the time to actually use it. They use the wrong bridge half of the time, but at least they made the effort to do something to acknowledge the disaster.
Was the cargo Dali, was it any relation to Salvador Dali?
No, I don't think so. It was the ship in Dali was always, I think it's still owned by Singapore flagship Synergy Marine.
It had a bit of a Salvador Dali painting look when it had the bridge draped over it after the crash, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool, Ashley. It
Yeah.
looks like but yeah, that was not a good way to live up to your name.
No, I'll just say thanks for the presentation. It was fascinating. Of course, I heard about it when it happened, but didn't know the detail that you went into. And I thought that it was also thought it was really good and interesting how quickly so many artists, produce postcards. And I thought, well, if a disaster is going to happen, sad as that is, it gave Clarissa, you're the lover of the new modern postcards for modern events, and you got one of the things you like to do, and that's collect modern postcards from modern events. So
Yeah.
bad way to get them, but it's good that you collected them.
But yeah, thank you. And I was surprised how many I found, but also when I looked more closely to who did them, I was because if it were people from Maryland, I understand they want to mark the catastrophic event, but no, they were from all over the world. The artists that were just inspired by a catastrophe and wanted to, I don't know, they didn't help because the money they earned was not given to anybody in the area. But
Still commemorates it in a way,
yeah, it commemorate, that's correct. But
yeah.
As an artist, suddenly you decide, oh my gosh, this happened. I make a drawing.
That was that way of acknowledging it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question. That Redbubble, is that just like an Etsy site? I've never heard of that before tonight.
Oh, Redbubble and Zazzle. There are two websites. I can put the link on the chat. That they have as a model that the artists can have an account or a store on the sites, and they can post designs that are willing to be on t-shirt or on postcards or on stationery or something else. And then once somebody buys the postcard, then they get printed. So for the artists, they get paid only if they sell the design. On a postcard, they get probably some, and they're not that expensive because you buy them for usually less than $2 or $3. And
so they send you the postcards, but you can also buy the design to be printed?
no, you can only buy the postcard.
Okay, so it's not like Etsy, it's just focused on images, not, because Etsy has sculptures and jewelry and everything else.
I think you can probably, it's more on images. So they will sell you, they print something. And the advantage for the artist is that they don't have an upfront cost. They don't have to produce 200 postcards hoping they will sell it. They just have to have a design and an idea, which means should cost because it's a time investment and so forth, but they don't have an inventory that they may not sell.
And I had a second question. Was there any postcards about the first responders, like honoring the first, or was it mostly just, I don't remember if you showed one like that. No,
I didn't find any. I didn't find any on the cleanup either. It was more is immediately the collapse and the people that died.
Clarissa, I'd like to say thank you very much for your presentation. It was really informative.
Oh, thank you.
And I have three pieces to add to that I was thinking about. The first one is I grew up in a house, and one of my grandfathers was a captain, merchant marine for Matson for 40
Oh.
years. And so I grew up at the dinner table for my whole life, all the way up till I was about 35 years old, hearing stories going in and out of the San Francisco Bay with the container ships, as he was a
Oh.
container ship captain for about 35 years. And he would talk routinely and for year upon year, and just normal conversations at the table about piloting, like Patrick was saying, when you were saying, piloting in and out of the bay and other bodies of water, and the importance of that and all the details surrounding that for a number, hundreds of stories. And how some places don't have pilots, like you said. And then so it would be very interesting if he was on this call, if he was alive, and because he would be able to talk to you about the whole room, about what it would be like to lose power on one of those ships, because I've heard him speak of that before. And and all the things like Patrick said with the writing of the ship, because I heard all those stories. And it would be interesting with that diagram that you had, what he would have to say about that.
Yeah, that diagram is on the
Yeah.
42nd minutes of the NOAA.
Mm-hmm.
40, I think I noticed. Yeah, 42 minutes in the show on YouTube. So on the Nova, which is on YouTube, you can find it. It's on the Nova show.
Yes.
So you can
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I tried to capture that. There's more to it. But what I heard is that this cargo ship do lose power on a regular basis, but usually it's in open sea, so nothing happens.
I've heard those stories.
That was the problem, is that he lost power just about when he was minutes from going through the channel between the two piers, and the currents have pushed him in the wrong direction. Because if they had pushed him in the middle of the channel, it would have been okay.
I think also the number of these cards, the way that they look, and I wouldn't be able to say this for sure yet, but I do believe why we're seeing so much of this stuff that's going on with artists and artistry, I believe probably every one of those cards almost was made with artificial intelligence, maybe. And
oh, it's possible. Definitely.
And they can't get the image right on what they want to do, or the image just isn't working out in the right way, so then they accept one of those other bridge designs in the photo that they're making. So I think that's one piece also that goes with the story. So yeah,
you're probably right, because when I wrote to some of the artists, I said, I like your postcard, but it's the wrong bridge.
And I thought that
felt like, oh well, they say, oh, I'm sorry, that's the way. I thought at first that, oh, I'm sorry, I will change it. But now they did not, because on Zazzle and Redbubble, they could change and upload another postcard and retire one, because it doesn't cost them. They didn't print 200 postcard already.
Yeah.
But they did not do. They said, oh well.
I know Patrick Ford does these AI pictures too. He could do them with themes and everything, whatever you're doing to generate those. I've seen him do that. So I thought that was
I did it while you were talking, and that was the one I came up with while you were talking. I put in let's see, what is it? Oh, it's mirrored. Make a drawing image of the collapsed Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge. They just wrote that in real quick. That's what it came up with. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
That'd be a pretty good postcard.
and you could change, you change depending on how you do your commands. You could put in the container, but that was just that one sentence, and that's what that came up with. And it's stylized, looks cool, and that's why I tried it out just to.
Yeah, I know it's very possible, but they did not draw by hands. That's a good point. But on the other hand, they took the time to actually even doing it and posting it and hoping that somebody would buy it. I was amazed that there were 50 postcards.
I wanted
But
to
the
just,
most amazing one I found is the one on the Mothman,
Yeah,
because he
is
put two bridges connected together and say, well, maybe the Mothman has hit again and hit the other bridge. And by chance, I had the Silver Bridge collapse on my collection. And then recently I bought the one of the Silver Bridge before the collapse to complete. But I was surprised. I think that was the most elaborate. And it may be AI, but not quite.
I was,
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that Lauren Thor would be with us tonight because her dad taught at the Maritime Academy here in Vallejo, and I'm sure she would have some comments on what happened tonight. So I'm anxious for her to see the recording of it. I'm sure that she'll be able to add something to it once everything's said and done. But just a great job, Clarissa. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
I have a quick question, and Clarissa, I'm not sure if you
Sure.
maybe know the answer. You mentioned that it was 73 million initially to design it. Is that any idea what the costs are going to be to build it?
No, 73 million is for the first phase one, which is for the design and develop the project scope and requirements. So that's the first part. I
Got to
think,
be in the billions, I would.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot
wow.
higher. And Baltimore was worried also that where the funding will come from, because federal government has given them the fund, but you never know if it's rescinded or not.
Yeah,
Is it-
wow.
Is it going to be, eventually the bill will be paid by the state of Maryland, I guess, or would it be a national thing?
Is what I understood is partially the state of Maryland's, but also federal government. After all, is on 695 is a high in the bridge connect 2 points of interstates, is a beltway, but is one of those I guess 695 roads. So it's part of the highway system, which usually are monitored by the federal government. For now, we have to go all the way around. I'm not too concerned because I don't have to go there, but for delivery into the Baltimore harbor, you have to go truck. So the beltway has more traffic than normal because instead of going quick, because
Well, that
trucks
bit of
cannot go through the tunnels. There is a huge sign, do not, if you have a hazmat or something, do not go through the tunnels.
Well, the bit of information that you gave us tonight, I had never heard before about it being the westernmost port on the.
Yeah,
That was very interesting.
That's why Baltimore Harbor exists since it was created.
Yeah.
Because nowadays we go by rail or plane or stuff, but when everything was going by water was more important than going by lands. The goods were coming from abroad, were on the Baltimore, they were already further west on the west coast than any other harbor. If you had to bring stuff on the west, so it will be cheaper. These days it might have less impact because of the way we transport, but most of the car that probably you buy, they come from abroad, they come from the port of Baltimore. They have a lot of cars, so that was a problem when it was closed, because it will create a bottleneck. And Baltimore was afraid that people will decide to switch to other ports and never come back. And so that would have been a loss of business for the port, but it did not happen because it was so short. people did not have time to get, agreements with other places or the other places to build up their receiving ends for the cargoes.
Clarissa, would you be able to share your screen and go back to that mural by Marquez? What's interesting about that, for a couple of reasons, Marquez is a Mexican-American muralist, I think, from Mexico City. And the history of Mexican Americans or people from Mexico City, making murals in America is pretty important. And there's a lot of examples of this particular guy's different murals, and then also the history of muralists, noting events and everything in history. So
let's not forget that all 6 workers were from Hispanic. I don't know if they were Mexican, but
it's just an interesting thing that the mural's really well done. That's cool.
So I have to go see it, but I read somewhere that some parts has been damaged, or I don't know if they didn't use the right paints and the weather has already damaged it. But as soon as spring starts, I will find a day to go see it in person and take pictures.
Interesting. The figure of the guy that you're showing right now on the screen would make a heck of a painting just in itself.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But for all of you still in the Bay Area, did you see the report last week that the Golden Gate Bridge is one of the bridges that they need to readdress for having bumpers around the tiers? And also here in San Diego, the San Diego Bay Bridge, which isn't nearly as old as these others. Actually, I think it's a little older than the Key Bridge. It's also on the list. So
I think a lot of the bridges are on the list unless they were built in the last 5 years, which there are probably not that many bridges, because the boats are 10 times bigger. So when they were constructed, I say in 1980, the Key Bridge did have a impact, was a boat, but nothing happened. This is a 1970 ship, and this is a 2014 ship. See the number of cargoes, 16 by 20, and this is 10 by 9. So it was like here. So that was the largest ship when the Key Bridge was built. So this is what the dolphin should be on islands. I don't know if they will put as many, but they have to be bigger and more of them.
Clarissa, they need you because they're concrete.
You need to come out of retirement, consult with them.
They know how to build concrete.
They could use me. I could make some bronze dolphin heads.
Yeah. And put them on top. That would be kind of interesting idea, is to put some kind of artistic statue on top of the dolphins, just as a art on the bay, or in this case would be on the Patapsco River. That would be kind of fun. You should write to the Kiwi company and say, get some artistic design on top.
Probably raise the cost of the bridge by several $1 million to do that, though. That's probably.
Yeah.
That's already be worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. The interesting story for the design of the bridge is that within weeks of the bridge collapse, there was a company that was actually from France and Italy that provided a design of the bridge. Not the design, but kind of how it should look like. And I thought, oh, okay, this is what the bridge, and also it was a bigger span. And then in February, I discovered, nah, they were not considered. It was a American company that would build it. They have built all the bridges, so they'll be okay.
Hopefully they'll they'll have better luck with the new one. And of course, with all the precautions that they're taking now, I just recalled that you were showing that one bridge that that fell, I think, on the Ohio River. and
Yeah,
where
Silver
it
Bridge.
had- Yeah, where it had a failure of one of the rivets. Did something hit it before that rivet broke, or it just
No.
broke and fell?
Just corrosion.
Oh, boy.
Corrosion, I mean, like any metal on water
Yeah.
is susceptible to a corrosion. And actually, where I was working before at NIST, they had a model of that bridge. And I had no thought the parallel until I found it. They had a model of that bridge and they would show the rivets where it was. It was on the top of some of the holders. And when that collapsed, it was a cascades. And
Oh.
because there was no redundancy. So hopefully this bridge has more redundancy so that one things fail, usually modern bridge has more redundancy. So if one things fail, the whole bridge doesn't collapse. But hitting a pier for a bridge is pretty dramatic. I don't know how much redundancy can you have on keeping the bridge on if you eliminate your table, you eliminate one of the feet. You can have a very sturdy table, but if you miss one of the feet, the table will collapse.
That's right.
I want to share a story now.
Yeah.
And in a previous life, I sold eyewear. And the month of, so September 2001, the company's POP, point of purchase, was I sold Flex on the glasses that twist and stuff. And so this is of the Golden Gate Bridge, and I was doing a trunk show at a store in Mill Valley, and the director of the Golden Gate Bridge came in and she said, I need one of those because whenever one of these big ships comes through, I always just have to hold my breath, but the bridge needs to be made, be able to move. And so I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. But the bridges, we need to spend as a nation, we need to spend a lot more on infrastructure, on bridges, even not the one over body of water, even the one on lands or highways and everything. It has to be, because if you're not, it's the same thing. You don't maintain your house, it will collapse. All of us, we have a house, we maintain it regularly. We redo the roof, we redo the siding, we do this and that. If you don't maintain them, they can't last. They have to be maintained.
I remember always the stories. It's all about the piloting. So going back to Roseanne, what she was saying, asking or inquiring about the Golden Gate Bridge or any bridges around now that are on the list, or they now rely on the piloting, I think, for a long time. And I could hear a lot of those stories. I remember about just the expertise of the pilot going in and out of the Golden Gate Bridge area, and the Bay Bridge area here in the Bay Area in San Francisco area. And just all the stories of expertise of the piloting. And that's what it came down to. And right now, I'm pretty sure that's the same thing, just the expert piloting.
Expert pilot, but in the case of the Cargo Dali,
yeah, so that's
if you lose power on the wrong moment because if I lost power like 15 or half hour earlier, nothing would have happened. And also, apparently, the bad thing is that the Dali had lost power before when he was in the harbor, and they thought they had fixed it, but not completely. So there was a part of also human error, because instead of being on automatic, the other circuit redundant, so the other circuit will kick in. It did not, because it was on manual. So by the time they switched it, it was too late. The pump was not functioning, and because it didn't get the electricity, it was stopped. So the fuel pump had to be restarted. and it took too much time. It's like one error make,
It's a snowball, it's a snowball effect, basically.
yeah, it's a snowball effect.
Clarissa, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this for us tonight. It was very, very interesting.
No, it was fun. I learn a lot when I do a presentation.